Hello and welcome to the Lost Pines Workshop. I'm JC Jensen. So this is episode 4 of building our classic dresser. We left off at episode 3. I had finished the glue up on the panels. I cleaned up, got it all cleaned up and was sizing the panels in preparation for joinery to assemble. I finished the top. It's all happy. I'll show you that in a second, or the bottom side of it anyway. And I was getting ready to saw down the sides and went, we got to think about that a little bit, because I hadn't quite figured out the pattern, the detailed design around the edge, the top edge of the top, and the piece of trim that I was going to put underneath. I hadn't determined the profile that I was going to use, or the how that profile thickness would turn out. So I've spent better part of this week figuring out that profile and figuring out how to make it, and buying 3 different router bits to come up with the profile that that worked. So let me show you how why that affected the dimensioning of the sides. So here's my drawing. This is what I drew out and calculated this week. So I determined my profile for the finished top, right? So here we go. That was the top profile. And then I'm going to have a piece of trim down here below. Well, these were 2 things I didn't have figured out. One was the depth, how deep from this point to this point it was going to be. After deciding on the profile depth is 3/4 of an inch. But for this down piece, all I did, I used the same profile, but I cut it in half. So this is from here to here is 3/8 of an inch. So I just, I lowered the bit on my router table, cutting the same profile, but then ripping it in half to give me the 3/8. So with that, this top's 3/4. I have a 3/8 of an inch setback to the face trim. Now on this face trim, I had a couple of options. One, the upper frame molding is going to sit on top of the carcass. So this line here represents the top of the carcass. I could have made this anywhere from 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 to 3/4. Well, because I want the reveal on the front, or the very top piece of the carcass, to be even from the top and in between each drawer, I want that reveal, or what you see, to be exactly the same. I want that symmetrical look going. And because this trim came out to 3/4, I decided to go ahead and make this upper frame, which I'll show you in a moment, 3/4 of an inch thick. Then I have the carcass top at 3/4 of an inch thick as well. So that helps me work it out this direction. Going front to back, distance from here to here is 3/4. That's where I want the face of the carcass to line up with. So I've got a nice overhang here, but I'm only leaving 3/8 of an inch of a lip, so it's not overpowering. So calculating that, that's 3/4 of an inch setback from my original 18 inches. So 18 minus 3/4 is 17 1/4. That will be the finished side width. More on that in a few minutes. Same thing applies to the across the front. I've got 3/4 overhang, 3/4 overhang. 38-inch finished top leaves my finished sides, or finished width on the carcass, at 36.5. Easy math. So that's what I had to sort out, but primarily this was my headache. knowing what this was in order to determine that. Okay, so now let me show you what I'm talking about with this upper frame with molding. Okay, real quick before I jump into this upper frame, I'll just show you my test. This is the test profile as I worked it out. And then the front edge profile. All right, if I can hold it. Well, more or less like that. All right. So these are my test pieces that determined everything I showed you in the drawing. Groovy? Okay, so here what you're looking at is the bottom side of the finished top. Okay, and then this is one piece of the upper frame to which the thin piece of molding will attach. It'll be on here like this, and then this front edge of the top gets routed to that profile, and then it'll all tie and blend together real nice and neat. All right, so now that I've got that sorted out, I know the dimension across his face and to the back. This upper frame is going to do two things for me. A, it gives me something to attach the trim to, nice, without covering that reveal of cherry space between the top of the drawer and the top of the cabinet. All right, that's number one. Gives me something to attach the trim to. Yeehaw, right? Well, it has a more important function. On either side, so across this front edge, I've used my countersink drill bit, drill my pilot holes, and run my wood screws in, and they go all the way into the top, locking this piece to the top. Grain direction is the same. However, on the sides, what I have done is slotted the screw holes, the mounting holes. All right, and those are going to go, those will go here. You notice I'm just using a butt joint here. Not important. What's important is the slotted holes. Okay, so this frame attaches to the top. Slotted holes. This is going to allow this panel, the three boards in here, to expand and contract seasonally as necessary. It's locked tight in the front so that all of our frame and trim on the front of the dresser are going to stay locked nice and tight and direct all of the movement to the back. These slotted holes allow that wood to expand and contract along this axis without tearing anything up, without any joint movement. It's fabulous. All right, so I'll do that on both sides. And then the back piece will be done the same as the front. It'll just be locked in place. All of that allows for the expansion and contraction of the top. Well, it's attached to the carcas, that sub panel or the sub top I was talking about. This frame will attach to the carcas in the same manner. I will use, when I attach this to the carcas, I'll have slotted holes on these sides, allowing the carcass top and sides to expand and contract, hopefully all to the back, so that everything on the front stays beautiful forever. No movement. We won't have any gaps or anything coming apart. So that's where I'm at. To create the slots, I'm sure there are easier ways, but sometimes I just like working with hand tools. All I did was mark the center, mark the location center where I wanted the hole. Right on. Then I took my hoo-ha, drill the hole. Then I simply took standard bench chisel, and chiseled out the pattern square on the front, and then took my mortising chisel and hollowed it out. There are probably easier ways to do this, but that's how I chose to do it today. Now, what does this do for me? In securing this top rail securely, I use standard wood screws. For the sides, I'm using what I had in the shop, but I like to use in the slotted holes a screw that has built-in washer head. So these are pocket hole screws. It's just what I happen to have in my drawer today, and they work just fine. They are the proper length. So that will go into our slot, and this is much larger than this piece will ever move, but I know that it moves freely. All right, and the head is below, and it rides on that washer, so I don't have to worry about it binding up in there. It's just going to allow it to slide nice and easy. Lots of movement, and good contact at the same time. So that's how I've accomplished that, and that's why I've done it that way. So I'll finish this one up. The bottom, now like I said, I'm butt jointing this one on the top because it's screwed top and bottom, and it just sits there. It's just allowing for expansion and contraction. I'm making the same frame for the bottom. However, on that one, I'm going to miter the corners and put a spline in, and I'll show you that. And the reason I'm doing the bottom that way is because that's what the feet for the dresser are attached to. So it needs to have some strength because it's holding all of the weight of the dresser and everything that's going to be in it. And, you know, as it gets moved from house to house or room to room or whatever, we want it to have a solid base with a better joint than a butt joint. Groovy? All right, so I'll finish getting this one laid out and screwed together, and I'll be taking this back apart to do that final profile over on the router table. But this is just, we'll call it pre-assembly, making sure that everything is dimensionally correct before I actually cut the rest of my panels. All right, so that's where we're at. One thing I didn't mention a minute ago, this overhang or setback here from the front edge is 3/4 of an inch, but on the back it's for the frame and the carcass it's flush. We don't need the overhang in the back because nobody's ever going to see it. But I've set that, I'm flush on the back, and I'm using my marking gauge to help me with the alignment. I've drawn my lines on the bottom side, but this is really super accurate and easy to just set and use as a guide. So that's what I've done here. Secure it. I've already got it marked out. Countersink bit, center, and I set the depth of the drill bit itself so that it drills through here into the top to the exact depth of the screw. And then we just take screws, run that in there. So now this should be a perfect fit. And it is. All right, take these off. And put them right in my way. That was awesome. Give you a spin. Two ends have a 3/4 inch setback as well. And then we'll just line up flush with the ends of these two guys. Right there. Okay, and now I've already mortised these out, so I'm only going to take and run the drill bit until the very tip touches the bottom of my hole, and I'm going to drill it in the center so it can move either direction. One in there. One in there. And because I was too lazy to go to the store, I got to change bits. Ta-da! And then we just spin it around and do the other end. Exactly the same way. All that out of the way. Nice. And here. Oops. One more. Ah, you turkey. The screw style clamps often work better with this than these squeeze clamps. The squeeze clamps tend to pull your work in the direction of the clamp. But if you're patient, you can work it out. Just a smidge. That was too much smidge. There we go. One more. All right, pile a hole down the middle, down the middle. Two more screws. And these, I'm just running them down snug. I'm not cranking them down tight because I want those washers to be able to slide as this top expands and contracts. Okay, so there's how that goes. Next up, I've already cut the other pieces to length. I just need to miter the corners and assemble that. So let's see what that's going to look like. Okay, so I've got all of my angles cut. I'm really pleased with the front ones. They are dead on. And then I use those to lay out my two side pieces. As you saw, I cut them all on my compound miter saw back there, or chop saw. And both of these are about 1/32 of an inch long. So I'm using my shooting board and my hand plane to lay these out and just shave off that tiny little bit that I need to get the perfect finish. But before I do that, I'm going to bevel the backside just a smidge. Yeah, this way. Flip it over so that the when I run the plane through it, it doesn't blow it out and doesn't blow out the backside. So one of these days I'll make a permanent fixture for these 45s and maybe some other angles as I need them. But for today, this is 90 degrees, perfectly 90 to this leading edge here, and I'm simply using my layout square at 45 as my backstop to keep me running at 45 degrees. I know that it's 45, that it's perfect, so now I just run that up here, and then we'll just shave this down to the line. A few passes here on the shooting board. A little bit more bite, I think. Otherwise, this will take all day. There we go. Just a smidge more. And we are using a plane on the end grain. And if your blade is sharp, mine needs a little bit of a kiss. So it gives us a really nice clean cut just with that. So verify my angle, dead on, and verify my length. Apparently somebody can't measure. Huh. Measure twice, cut once. I'm a 16th long now. Okay, so here we're going to glue up this bottom frame. As you can see, I've already got this side. These two corners are glued and clamped. We want to take a minute, show you what I'm doing here. In each of the four corners, I made these little corner clamps to keep everything square as we glue it together. I simply line this up. First I'll do it dry, get it set in place. Looks good there. Whoops, right there. Don't move. Snug that up. Okay, and we simply apply our glue to our joint. Just going to use my finger because it's a real small job. Sure we get a good coat on this end grain. It's going to suck that right up. Get rid of my excess here. Now all I got to do is slide this bad boy in place. Like so. And then take this one, clamp it to this side, make sure everything stays flush. Snug that up. This one, same way. Everything's nice and flush. I can, just to be certain, take the old handy dandy square. Always check it. Good there. More good there. So these little corner clamps just keep everything aligned, right, as I squeeze it together. All right, and then last but not least, I'll throw one more in here for good measure, all the way across and down the middle, and that'll really squeeze these the joints together. So this is a mitered, these are mitered corners, right? And it's end grain to end grain, and it's just glue. And we know that a glue bond is really good, really strong in and of itself, but it's still end grain to end grain. And in my world, end grain glue joints, they don't count. So once this glue dries, I'm going to, as I said before, I'm going to cut a slot and put in a cross grain or long grain, basically a tenon through here, to lock this joint together. And I'll show you that here in a minute. All right, so there we are. We'll wait for this glue to dry and we'll put the spline in. Okay, so we've got the frame glued up now, all nice and square, using those corner clamps that I showed you yesterday. I've let this glue dry overnight and we're back in here today. So now what we're ready to do, I'm going to put splines in this like that. So let me show you how I did it. Simply take our spline cutting jig here that we made up, lay that down in there, all the way to the bottom nice and tight. Take a clamp, slide that in there. I've aligned the fence so it's going to cut straight down the center. Grab our ears. And I set the blade height so it will cut 3/4 of an inch deep into that corner. it's all stopped. All right, so there's our spline, ready to go. And I got lucky in that my spline material, this happens to be cherry, this was a cutoff from doing one of the panels. And that's going to slide in here real nice. So I'll apply glue to that. Apply glue, set it in there. Once that glue dries, I'll trim these off. And now, and what that does for us here, my miter joint here, right? This is end grain to end grain. And as I stated before, that really doesn't count in my world. So by putting a spline in here, I now have long grain to long grain. Well, this way, long grain to long grain, where they meet. All right, and that's just going to strengthen this miter joint. So there we go. That's how that's accomplished. So I'll get those, I'll get these glued in and trimmed up, and our base frame is now done. Now with that, I have the dimensions, the perfect dimensions of the carcass. So I can move forward and cut the two sides, and the top and the bottom, to their appropriate dimension, based off of the dimensions from the top and the bottom frame that we just made. Okay, quick recap. We calculated, cut, and assembled the top and the bottom frame. Calculated the dimensions, which gave us the dimensions that we needed for the 4 panels, the 2 sides, top and the bottom. And then whoop, ripped it, cross-cut it on the sled. So all of our panels are now dimensioned. So one thing I want to note, you'll notice over here on my left, I have stacked and stickered all of these panels. Throughout your build process, you want all of the pieces that you intend to use from the point that you purchased them, rough sawn and put them on a shelf, until you've assembled it. You want to stack and sticker accordingly. That ensures we have even airflow around the entire piece, so that you don't end up with any warping as it is waiting for the next step. If you take a panel such as those and you just lay it flat on a table and walk away, within a few hours, that airflow / moisture is different. The exposure is different. You've got 3 sides exposed, 1 side that is not. That can lead to deformation of your material. So when you're done, throughout the whole process, stack it and sticker, ready for the next step. Okay, so that concludes episode 4. Episode 5, we're going to start looking at we'll take a look at the joinery we're going to use for the carcus, i.e. the 2 sides and the top and the bottom, how we're going to assemble those. So I hope that helps. Remember, if you like my video, hit that like button. And hopefully you're subscribed and follow us through this process. Have a great day. See you down the road.